When Apollo was only 4 days old, he prayed to the Titan goddess Themis, asking for a bow and arrows. Themis granted his wish by going to the god of craftsmanship, Hephaestus, and requesting that he forge a set for Apollo. Hephaestus crafted a beautiful golden bow and a quiver filled with sharp arrows. Apollo was overjoyed, and from that day on, he practiced archery every single day in the gardens. Thanks to his divine nature, his skill with the bow grew extraordinarily fast. Meanwhile, far away, the great serpent Python, sent by Hera to pursue Leto and her children, was still relentlessly tracking them down. For months, it had searched for Leto, until it finally reached the slopes of Mount Parnassus. There, it waited for the perfect moment to strike. But Apollo learned of Python's lurking threat. Even though he was only 7 months old, he decided to quell the beast. Taking up his bow and arrows, he set out toward Mount Parnassus. Despite his young age, his divine power was not to be underestimated. When Apollo arrived to the slopes of Mount Parnassus, he confronted the massive serpent without hesitation. At first, Python did not take the infant god seriously, ignoring him. But the moment Apollo's arrows pierced its body, Python realized its mistake. Wounded and unable to resist, the serpent fled toward Delphi, a sacred place dedicated to Gaia, Mother Earth, and a holy site where the gods gave oracles. Python believed that in Delphi, under Gaia's protection, Apollo would not dare to kill him. What the serpent did not know was that when Apollo believed he was in the right, nothing could stop him, not even the sacred laws of the gods. At that time, Gaia was absent, and only her servant, the nymph Pythia, Catalia in this telling, guarded the oracle's great chasm. Python lay beside it, moaning in pain. Pythia tried to shield the serpent from Apollo's sight. But Apollo saw through her attempt instantly. Without mercy, he transformed the nymph into a stone and slew. He searched Python and killed beside the oracle's great chasm. Though Apollo was pleased with his victory, not everyone shared his joy. Gaia and the other gods were outraged that he had shed blood in such a holy place. They went to Zeus and demanded punishment. Zeus emerged, having been absent when Leto was in danger, and decreed 2 punishments for his son. First, Apollo was to live in the Vale of Tempe, between Mount Olympus and Mount Ossa, to reflect on his actions. Second, he was to preside over the Pythian Games, held every 4 years in honor of Python. But Apollo, convinced of his righteousness, ignored the command. Instead of going to the Vale of Tempe, he took his twin sister Artemis and left to Aegialia, then traveled to the land of Terra. There, King Carmenor performed purification rites to cleanse Apollo of his sin. Afterward, Apollo sought out the satyr Pan to learn the art of prophecy. Once he had mastered it, he returned to Delphi, not to honor Python, but to claim the sacred site for himself. He declared the Pythian Games would still be held, but as a celebration of his own victory, not as a tribute to the serpent. Not long after Apollo took control of Delphi, his mother Leto arrived and settled in a nearby forest. One day, the giant Tityus appeared, attempting to seize Leto. Apollo and Artemis had her cries and they rushed to her aid. Apollo rained down a storm of arrows upon Tityus. Zeus also struck the giant down and chained him in Tartarus. There, 2 monstrous vultures were set to feast eternally on his liver.